Valeant. I was going to do a quick postmortem on this thing as well. So Valeant was a big pharmaceutical company, now it's a small pharmaceutical company, and a lot of people are curious about kind of what happened to Valeant and what I thought of the situation. So it's actually a really great company. When Pearson took over the company, I think that he actually ran it really well and in a really promising way. A lot of the acquisitions that Valeant did were really intelligent. And in fact, the first probably 30 or 40 acquisitions they did were really good. The problem is that, in fact, it's a lot like, this is the one that Ackman lost billions of dollars in, correct? The reason that Valeant became a problem, I think, is just simple lack of humility and hubris. Success to investors or to entrepreneurs becomes very intoxicating, and a little bit of success can lead into really terrible mistakes, moves that are questionable after the fact but seem smart at the time. So I think what happened with Pearson and Valeant was that they were doing these acquisitions and Wall Street was cheering them on. And so they basically got into this mode of, let's do as many acquisitions as we can. And we can just constantly buy and buy more companies. And in fact, I met with Valeant, in 2011 or 2012, and I asked them a question at the JP Morgan conference as to, how many deals is too many deals? Is there such thing as too much leverage? And they said no. And I thought it was such a surprising answer. They said, no, I think that, a company can keep doing deals and delever and, we'll be fine. And it was really a surprising answer. Of course, if you look at Berkshire Hathaway, roll-ups can exist and do well if the acquisitions are done correctly. But the other thing is that most companies really can't buy more than a couple companies a year, even Berkshire, who has separate, great, qualified CEOs. Berkshire is a collection of lots of companies. When I was doing acquisitions, and I'm still doing them, I like to do one or two a year, not 10 or 20 a year. And it's just really hard to manage companies because they have different accounting systems and different offices and different people. And even in pharmaceuticals, where acquisitions are all pretty simple, it's really tough to kind of do this kind of stuff. So with this initial success of a couple of their smart deals, they ended up doing these really big deals that were less good. Dendron wasn't that awful, but Bausch & Lomb and Salix, they basically overpaid. And I know what it's like when a big investment bank says, hey, I'll let you borrow $1 billion, or I'll let you borrow $5 billion, or I'll let you borrow $10 billion. The bank is just trying to get a fee. They're not taking any risk. You're taking the risk. They're selling you the risk, and they're taking a cut of it. The bondholders are taking the risk. The company's taking the risk. The bank's just introducing the two. And the banks are very, very willing to do that. So, in essence, Valeant got intoxicated that they could buy a company like Salix that global, huge pharmaceutical companies were trying to buy, like Eli Lilly and Merck. And getting invited to that auction is so cool. It's like getting invited to a cool party that Kanye West is going to be at and Jay-Z is going to be at. And you're like, wow, I get to go to this cool party with these cool people. And I better do something cool at this cool party. Well, that's sort of a good analogy, I think, for what happened to Valeant. They got to the cool kids table and they sort of forgot how to act at it. So in any event, that's sort of what happened. And a good sign that integration was difficult is that Philidor, which was not a huge problem for Valeant, I think, but became something that was newsworthy. The big problem with Valeant is they bought bad businesses with borrowed money. Philidor is actually kind of a neat idea, a little bit shady, but things that it's something that other companies do. Now the problem was that there was fraud at Philidor. In fact, a guy got arrested because he was siphoning Valeant business to Philidor, and he actually owned Philidor secretly, so he was trying to stuff his own pockets. But there's nothing. Philidor has a lot of other issues. But then when you notice that Pearson donated tens of millions to Duke, I also thought that was pretty scary. The guy's head just got really, really big. And that is a very dangerous thing. So Valeant also did a bunch of price increases. They actually worked out really well. And I have to say that if you look into the annals of history, that I want to say that I actually helped teach Valeant how to do price increases, because I was going to buy some of their medicines and raise prices, and I was going to raise them by 10 or 20x, and then Valeant ended up doing those. So I think that I deserve a little bit of credit, but the price increases actually helped a ton. They never had to roll back those price increases. They kept all the money. They never paid a fine. They were embarrassed a little bit, like every other executive, but those price increases really made Valeant tons of money, billions of dollars. Drugs like Glumetza and Cyprine and Coumadin. So there really was no downside to those price increases. So a lot of people blame Valeant's failure on Philidor or price increases. None of that mattered. All that mattered is they bought a bunch of companies, like Medisys was another really terrible deal. They tried to buy Cephalon, which would have been a terrible deal. Teva ended up buying that. These were terrible, terrible deals with borrowed money. So a bad deal is bad enough, but a bad deal with borrowed money is really a disaster. So in any event, that's sort of kind of what happened with Valeant. Okay, so month to date, there's a bunch of stocks that have done well, but mostly there have been a bunch of stocks that haven't done so well. We've been able to get one of these called Sangamo. Retrophin is the company I started. I don't know why it's going up. I actually think it's going to go down a lot in the future. Epizyme, Overstock's sort of back from the dead. Stamps.com we talked about. And of course, MYOK, which is sort of a crazy little company that nobody can quite figure out. Generics are the stocks marked in yellow. All of those have plummeted, and Teva deserves a special mention here for being just such a big company. Dropping that much is really unprecedented. You don't see that in any industry. So really wild performance. This is one of the most important months in healthcare where, I've been surfing for generic drugs to buy, and it's really no man's land. A lot of these assets are permanently impaired. They have no value, and all of these companies are generics companies here in yellow, or at least most of them. We got the secret short, which now can be revealed as Axim. We're short Ironwood, and we're short Neurotrope, which have worked. And the good news is, so the ones in green are all of our stocks. So the good news is none of the shorts are in this column, and none of the longs are in these columns. So we did well yet again. A couple of current opinions. I trimmed the current opinion list a little bit. I've been looking at Comcast. I think Comcast is really overvalued, so I'm probably going to short that in short order. I found this little microcap diagnostics company called Co-Diagnostics that I'm also short. I just shorted it, but I trimmed this list a little bit. I don't think it's time to buy Teva now. I think Teva is going to have to restructure pretty seriously. So here's the portfolio. It was up 28 basis points, so we're up about 11%, 10.67%. Very little gross, very little net. I covered the Axim, the secret short. I think I did one other move. What else did I do? Maybe I covered Axim. I inserted CODX.